Walters is back as the official bar of the Nats Chat podcast for our 6th season of coverage. Located just across the street from the ballpark, Walters is the best sports bar in Navy Yard.
The Bleacher Report app is your destination for sports. Right now, the NBA is heating up, March Madness is here, and MLB is almost back. Every day there's a new headline, a new highlight, a new moment you've got to see for yourself. That's why I stay locked in with the Bleacher Report app. For me, it's about staying connected to my sports. I can follow the teams I care about, get real-time scores, breaking news, and highlights all in one place. Download the Bleacher Report app today so you never miss a moment.
Hi, I'm Alicia.
And I'm Stacy.
And we make Trashy Divorces, everybody's favorite good podcast about bad relationships.
Looking for something true crimey without the gore or the body count?
We've been churning out funny, feisty, feminist episodes since 2019. So if you're looking to put some scandalous stories told well into your ears this summer, check out Trashy Divorces, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Trust us, we've covered someone you love.
Or someone you love to hate.
And the pitch swung on, hit high in the air to deep left field. This is Happ going back on the warning track at the wall, and it is gone. Goodbye. 5 rows deep toward the left field corner into a ferocious wind. Bang, zoom goes Joey Wiemer with the first Nationals home run of the year.
The 3-1. Swinging a fly ball right field. The wind pushing it toward the corner, giving chase is Shaw. This one over his head and gone. Oh my goodness, Jacob Young is homer to the opposite field into the basket. A wind-blown 2-run homer for Jacob Young. And the Nationals lead it 7-2.
Webb delivers, swinging a high fly ball right field deep. Back goes Conforto at the wall, looking up, and it is gone. Goodbye. The 3rd home run of the day for the Nationals. House around first, went back to touch, thinking he might have missed the bag. Bang, zoom goes Brady House as he circles the bases with an opening day 2-run home run here in the top of the 9th inning. And the Nationals pouring it on late. They have hit double digits at Wrigley Field. It's now the Nationals 10 and the Cubs 4.
And welcome to Nats Chat, along with Washington Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman of NatsJournal.com. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. Mark is at Wrigley Field, where the Nats scored their most runs in an opening day game since the franchise moved to Washington, D.C. in the 2004-2005 offseason. Not a bad way to begin the 22nd regular season of the Nats being in D.C. A 10-4 win at the Chicago Cubs on Thursday in Game 1 of a 3-game series. Welcome to season number 6 of the Nats Chat podcast, the only Nats podcast for which there is a new episode for the morning after every Nats regular season game day. Mark has covered the team since it came to D.C. I've been doing sports talk in D.C. for nearly 25 years. It is great to have you with us, as is the opening day tradition on the Nats Chat podcast. This installment of the show brought to us by the great Mason Kalfas, the top legal recruiter in Washington, D.C. Mason has been with us since our first season. You can reach him at 202-486-3535. Our deepest sympathies to those of you who had some issues when it came to watching this game on Thursday. The phrase Verizon Fios Channel 579 became ingrained in the minds of more than a few Nats fans. In fact, if you do a search on X, Nationals Verizon Fios Channel 579, a whole lot of things end up popping up. I don't know, sometimes Tim Shovers struggles, or at least wrestles with what to call episodes of this podcast, like what to use as the title. Maybe the title of this pod, Tim, should be Verizon Fios Channel 579. I don't know. Anyway, hopefully you did get to watch the game. And Mark, this was a fun opening day. We all get it. The Nats are not expected to have a good season. But, for a game number 1 for this team with this new process fueled by analytics and sports science, the team led by a new president of baseball operations in Paul Taboni, a new general manager in Ani Colombia, new manager and Blake Butera. So far, so good. Nice to say 1-0.
Al, I could argue that this is the most encouraging, uplifting opening day this team has had since the last time they opened at Wrigley Field way back in 2012. That was a new look Nationals team that had high expectations. They won on opening day and obviously went on to win 98 games and make the playoffs for the first time. I'm not saying this season is going to come anywhere close to that, But in terms of just the encouraging nature of it, they won the game, yes, but it's also the way they won it, with some unexpected power, with contributions up and down the lineup and up and down the pitching staff. There were so many guys who had a role in this win. This is, in their perfect vision, Blake Butera and Paul Taboni, this is the kind of win that they are hoping to see a lot more of. It's not just about a couple of the big name guys. It's about everybody. It's about putting together a lineup that was fully based on the matchups and seeing it come through the way that it did. It's about piecing together their bullpen, again, picking the right guys for the right spots and seeing that group come through. I don't know this is exactly how they would have scripted it to go, but it had to be pretty close to what they could have foreseen or envisioned this one being like. And I do feel terrible for anyone who wasn't able to watch for technical difficulties, whatever the reasons might be, because this was a fun game. I hope there are a lot more of them this season. I hope this was not the high point of the entire 2026 season, but it was like, in your dream world, this is about as good of a scenario as you could have drawn up for game one.
Crazy game, too. A Nats outfielder with the initials JW was a big-time offensive producer. That outfielder was not James Wood. That outfielder was Joey Wiemer. Go figure. But yeah, so with the lineup, right? So we get it. New process for the Nats. We are anticipating seeing a ton of different lineups over the course of the 162. And sure enough, the Nats on Thursday had multiple notable items with the lineup. Andres Chpparo was the starting first baseman and number 2 batter. The aforementioned Joey Wiemer was the Nats starting right fielder and number 5 batter. He batted ahead of CJ Abrams, who was the Nats starting shortstop and number 6 batter. And oh, by the way, the Nats were facing a good pitcher in the Cubs opening day starter, lefty Matthew Boyd. Matthew Boyd, last regular season, 31 starts, ERA of 3.21. This guy's a good pitcher. He's a veteran pitcher. And the Nats got to him in this game. Boyd allowed 6 runs in 3 2/3 innings. It was odd. He had 7 strikeouts versus 1 walk, but the Nats ended up ripping him. And the overall offensive production, I mean, how do you complain about this? 10 runs, 11 hits, which were 3 homers, a double, and 7 singles. The Nats worked 2 walks and a hit by pitch. The Nats went 3 for 6 with runners in scoring position, and the Nats did what they did offensively, despite a rough game for James Wood. He was the Nats starting left fielder and number 1 batter. He went 0 for 5 with 4 strikeouts. But even with that, if you look at the StatCast data for this game, so many impressive exit velos for the Nats in this game. They were hitting balls hard. They got good offensive results. And again, they did this with James Wood having a really rough game offensively.
Yeah, I think the 2 themes of this game from an offensive standpoint is, number 1, getting contributions from lots of different guys. And you saw that where you could, get away with James Wood having let's admit, a very August and September 2025 James Wood kind of game at the plate. You hope that doesn't continue. We'll ignore that for today because there are way more interesting things to talk about. So number 1, getting the contributions from all the others. The other, I think, key point to it all, when they made contact, and they didn't make contact a lot in those first 3 innings, 7 of their first 10 batters struck out. But when they did make contact against Boyd, it was loud contact. You had 2 drives to the warning track in the first 2 innings, one by Andres Chpparo, one by Dalen Lyle. On any other day, those are home runs. The wind at Wrigley was in full force for this game. This was a bizarre, maybe classic Chicago weather day. When we all got to the ballpark in the morning, it was warm, it was muggy, it was in the 60s. The wind was blowing out. And right around 10 o'clock, 10:30, it completely flipped. And it dropped about 15 degrees and the wind started howling in from left field. And you saw what that did to fly balls. And so when I saw those 2 early drives get knocked down by the wind, I thought, nobody's going to hit one out today. Well, then what happened? Joey Wiemer, of all people, hit one right through the teeth of the wind into left field. And then Jacob Young and Brady House go the opposite way. You had all kinds of other really good quality contact. So yes, they swung and missed a lot the first time through. But when they did make contact, it was really good, solid contact. And not just 1 or 2 guys, a lot of guys.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at the exit velos, and it's one triple-digit exit velo after another. The Brady House homer, 110.8. The C.J. Abrams single, 110.8. The Joey Wiemer homer, 110.5. Brady House's single, 106.7. And Andres Chpparo flyout, you just brought it up, 105.4. The Chpparo double, 103.8. The Jacob Young homer, 101.9. A Dalen Lyle single, 100.3. Joey Wiemer single, 100. Dalen Lyle's lineout, 98.4. On and on we can go. It's crazy, too, when you look at who hit the homers. I mean, Joey Wiemer and Jacob Young, right? I mean, if I said to you, the first two Nats outfielders to homer this season will be Joey Wiemer and Jacob Young. Like, what? Who? And yet that's exactly what happened. Joey Wiemer, who is this guy? The Nats this past January 5th claimed Wiemer off waivers from the San Francisco Giants. He in this game as the starting right fielder and number 5 batter, 3 for 3 with a solo homer, 2 singles, and a walk. He also got credited with an outfield assist. The homer was great. A 1-run Nats second, a 1-out solo shot to left field for a 1-0 Nats lead. The outfield assist came to end the Cubs' 2-run third. He on a Pete Crow Armstrong 2-out first pitch RBI single into right, threw home to catcher Cade Ruiz, and Ruiz did a really good job here. Fired the ball to third baseman Brady House to tag Alex Bregman for the third out. Jacob Young comes into this game with just 5 homers over 1,006 career MLB regular season plate appearances, but he is the Nats starting center fielder and number 9 batter, 1 for 4 with a 2-run homer. Young in the Nats, a 6-run fourth, a 2-out opposite field 2-run shot to right for a 7-2 Nats lead. And Brady House, who had a great exhibition season, so good to see this. He is the Nats starting third baseman and number 3 batter, 2 for 5 with a 2-run homer and a single. Did commit a throwing error, but House in a Nats 2-run ninth, a 2-out first pitch, 2-run opposite field homer to right for a 10-4 Nats lead. He also had a very good defensive play. Bottom of the first, a diving catch on a 5-3 ground out by Alex Bregman for the first out. But the Nats win by 6. The 2-run homer by House, you almost felt like was needed. It almost felt like 2 needed insurance runs because you weren't quite sure what to expect as this game went on. It turned out that the bullpen was good, but in the moment, you weren't sure how many runs you would need. And so that House homer actually felt like was important, or at least it felt important at the time.
Right. It felt there like they were going to have to hope that those early runs held up the rest of the game. Now, they didn't need it, as you said, but once they got that last one, when House hit that ball out, the fans who were still here, and a lot of them had already left, I'm sure the weather played a factor in that, but a lot of them had already left. Those who were still here, they immediately got up and walked out as soon as that went out. That was the final dagger for sure. Let's remember, this was one of the least productive offenses in baseball throughout spring training. Really did not show anything. So how did they flip the switch here on opening day to have that kind of performance? And I think something to consider here is, number one, they knew for a while who they were going to be facing, Matthew Boyd. They had time to prep for him. That's not just the players, but the coaching staff, the front office, everybody. I think they had a real game plan put together for how to face him. That included who was in the lineup and where they were hitting. They had worked on this lineup for a while. When people saw it in the morning, like, what are they doing? Andres Chpparo is your number 2 hitter. Joey Wiemer is your number 5 hitter. There was a method to the madness. You're going to see a lot of this kind of stuff. They put a lot of work into their scouting and their game planning for this. And they got to go out and face this guy. And you saw by facing him into the 4th inning and getting a second look at him, they had some really good at-bats against him. Now, you had weeks to prepare for this one game. It's not going to be the same moving forward. You got 2 days to game 2, and then you're basically playing every day after that. Can they get enough prep in, and can they implement all that on a day-to-day basis? It's going to be fascinating to see. I don't want to take anything away from the players who got the job done in this game, but I think we probably should acknowledge that some of the credit here is going to go to this new process they have and the new people in charge who put together a very good game plan for how to face this particular pitcher, and then they put it into action and the guys delivered when they were asked to.
Yeah, this was what you call an organizational win. And oh, by the way, you out-processed a team known for process in the Cubs. I mean, the Cubs are known as a really smart team, and you, dare I say, outsmarted the Cubs, out-sabermetriced the Cubs, at least on one day. The Nats got the better of one of the more impressive organizations in MLB. Our Are you a law firm partner or associate stuck on an underperforming team or your competitors are passing you by? Is your law firm still living in 2019 and pretending everything is okay? Meanwhile, the whole firm is having the same bad luck as Josiah Gray is having. Unlike James Wood, you've got options and you don't have to stay on a 60-win roster. Longtime Nats Chat sponsor Mason Kalfas is the best legal recruiter in the D.C. market. Mason and his team at Zenith Legal specialize in placing partners, associates, and senior government lawyers at top firms in Washington, D.C. and across the country. Mason and his team have placed attorneys at more than half of the AmLaw 100. And while you might be reading doom and gloom in the legal press, the reality is that many practices are red hot. Antitrust, private equity, and real estate, among others. Plus, Zenith Legal has something that no other legal recruiting firm offers, a proprietary app that lets you track exactly where you've been submitted and helps Mason's team match you with the right opportunity faster and more precisely. Mason regularly works with senior lawyers from the DOJ, SEC, and law firms to help them level up, whether that means a better platform, stronger clients, or, let's be honest, a lot more money. Even in slow markets, Mason has helped attorneys dramatically increase their compensation. Unlike Jurickson Profar, you don't need a suspension to take a year off and rethink your future. You can make a smart move right now. Make a call to the bullpen. Mason Kalfas will help you find and negotiate a better deal for your career and future. Call Mason today, 202-486-3535. That's 202-486-3535.
If you listen to Nats Chat, you're probably a Nats fan. Well, unless you're one of the family members Tim, Al, and I pay off to boost our numbers, but the rest of you are legitimate fans of the team, hungry for all the coverage you can get. You're in luck because there's a new home for the most comprehensive coverage out there, natsjournal.com. I'm bringing more than 2 decades of journalistic expertise to Nats Journal, where you can find breaking news, analysis, and lots of interaction with fellow fans and me. You can even access every episode of Nats Chat, past and present, right there on the site. And you can get every single article I write emailed directly to your inbox the moment it publishes. Subscriptions are just $7.99 a month, or sign up for an annual subscription and pay just $5.99 a month. Go to natsjournal.com and select the plan that works for you. Then come along for the ride with me and thousands of fellow Nats fans who have already signed up. That's natsjournal.com, your new home for the best coverage in town.
Today's show is sponsored by Strawberry.me. Let me ask you something. Do you think championship athletes got to the top by guessing? No, they had coaching. Every elite athlete has a coach watching their form, calling the plays, and spotting the blind spots they can't see themselves. That's how championships are won. So why are you trying to win in your career without a coach? You're grinding, hoping for the promotion, trying to read the politics, guessing your next move. That's amateur hour. If you want to perform like a pro, you need coaching. Strawberry.me matches you with a professional career coach who breaks down your game film. They help you negotiate the raise, navigate workplace politics, and execute a strategy that actually works. Stop riding the bench in your own life. Go to strawberry.me/podcast50 to get 50% off your first coaching session. Strawberry.me, because pros don't guess, they get coached to win.
3 balls, 2 strikes. We'll do it again. Lord ready. Kicking the pitch. Swinging a ground ball up the middle behind second. Fielded by Nunez to second for 1, to first for 2. And the inning is over. Brad Lord dials up the double play with a ground ball right over the second base bag to the Nationals' top defender, Nasim Nunez, who turned it with room to spare.
The offense, a big-time positive, and the bullpen ended up being a big-time positive in this game. The Nats bullpen on paper is the exact opposite of imposing, okay? I don't know what word you want to use. We're being nice on this installment of the podcast because Thursday was such a fun day. But, you go through name by name in terms of Nats relievers on the regular season opening 26-man roster. You're like, wow, this could be rough in terms of what we get from Nats relief pitching this season. And maybe what we get will be rough. But on this day, Nats relievers found a way to come through. Now, things did get rocky at times. That is true. But ultimately, 4 Nats relievers combined to allow 1 run in 5 1/3 innings. PJ Poulin, he faced 5 batters and got 3 outs, came into the game in the bottom of the 4th with a runner on third, 2 outs, and the Nats up 7-3, and he got the Cubs' number 9 batter, Matt Shaw, to ground out on 8 pitches for the 3rd out. Brad Lord allowed 1 run in 2 1/3 innings, so a lengthy outing for him. He came into the game, bottom of the 5th, runners on first and second, 2 outs, Nats up 7-3. He got the Cubs' number 5 batter, Nico Hoerner, to ground into a fielder's choice for the 3rd out. Also Lord with runners on first and second, 1 out, and the Nats up 8-4 in the bottom of the 7th, induced a 4-3 full count double play off the bat of Nico Hoerner as second baseman Nasim Nunez made a really nice play. And the run that Lord allowed came out a bunt, came out a 1-out RBI bunt single by Pete Crow Armstrong in a Cubs 1-run 7th. We had the adventures of Clayton Beeter. He tossed a scoreless and hitless bottom of the 8th. I'm still not sure how. He issued 2 walks. He issued a wild pitch. He was late to cover first on a ground out, but he tossed a scoreless and hitless bottom of the 8th inning. Also, he threw as many balls as he threw strikes. 24 pitches, 12 strikes, 12 balls. But again, he tossed a scoreless and hitless bottom of the 8th. And a salute to Cionel Perez, a perfect bottom of the 9th with 2 swinging strikeouts, despite facing the Cubs' numbers 2 through 4 batters in Alex Bregman, Ian Happ, and Pete Crow Armstrong. Cionel Perez, the former Orioles reliever, he has not had a good season since 2022, but when he has been good, he has been quite good. And this was some appearance by Perez in this game, facing the meat of the Cubs' order, setting them down 1-2-3, 2 swinging strikeouts, and ultimately the Nats bullpen comes through.
Am I remembering right that you and I both, in our season predictions that I did on natsjournal.com, had him leading the team in saves? We were the only 2 from the whole group to do that. We were thinking along the same lines. I really like this guy. He looked impressive in spring training. He's a new man. He has worked a lot on reconfiguring his repertoire, going back to the fastball that he had when he was good with the Orioles, instead of trying to be a ground ball pitcher, being more of a 4-seam fastball, go right at him. The stuff has been excellent. I know it wasn't a save situation because they were up by 6 runs, but that kind of telegraphed maybe what Blake Butera is thinking, in that if they have a lead late in the game and there are big lefties coming up, I think he's going to be the guy on the mound for that one. I really think the bullpen deserves a ton of credit for this game. We'll get to Cade Cavalli, and I thought it was a good outing by him, all things considered. But Butera had to ask his bullpen to give him 16 outs in this game on opening day. And they really came through. Yes, they got into some jams, but for the most part, they were able to get out of them. I think Brad Lord, this is a perfect example of what he can do for you as a reliever. I know people were saying, maybe he should be one of their 5 starters. And I get that. He may be better, probably is better than 1 or 2 of their starters. But there's some real value in having him do what he did in this game. It's a long reliever, but you tend to think of long reliever as like the sloppy guy who, when the starter gets knocked out early, you're just picking up innings and just trying to get the game over with. No, you can deploy a guy like this in a meaningful game and get 2 1/3 innings out of him. He pitches out of a jam in the 5th inning. It wasn't of his making, it was PJ Poulin, but he comes in and gets the final out of that inning. Then he comes back and pitches the 6th and the 7th, gets a big double play grounder to end the 7th. To have a guy with his ability and adaptability who can give you 2 1/3 innings and be the bridge from whoever you're using earlier on to the back end guys, that's a really valuable guy to have in your bullpen. And I will be interested to see how they use him this season. But that to me was an example of what Brad Lord can do for you, and how not making the rotation is not necessarily a bad thing. And it can actually be a sign that they do value him, because what he's doing for you there in that role is arguably maybe even more valuable than being your number 5 starter.
And I tend to think it's pretty safe to say that Brad Lord will be making at least some starts here this season, maybe even a whole lot of starts before all is said and done. But, we have lamented the Nats lacking a legitimate long man in recent years, and maybe they do finally have that guy in Brad Lord. So the bullpen comes through. And then there's Cade Cavalli. So obviously, Cavalli, you look at him, a lot of high expectations off him being healthy, off him having this great exhibition season, off him being declared the opening day starter. Did a nice press conference at Nationals Park earlier this week. He ends up lasting for just 3 2/3 innings, 3 runs, 2 earned in 3 2/3 innings. Now, you look at that, and it's a disappointing outing. I mean, it's hard to argue otherwise, right? Had the great exhibition campaign. The Nats gave him a 7-2 lead entering the bottom of the fourth inning. The pitch count got high. He only gave up 3 hits, so that was good, a double and 2 singles. He issued 3 walks into wild pitch. He did have 5 strikeouts, so that was good. He also committed an error. That was not good. Cubs a 2-run third. Cavalli committed a throwing error on a pickoff attempt. He threw 75 pitches, 46 strikes, 29 balls. So there's a lot to take in. This was not like some wretched outing, but clearly I would think he's disappointed. And, I think we all were expecting more than 3 2/3 innings. And, you look at how good the offense ended up being. This was set up for Cavalli to eat up some innings, and that unfortunately did not happen.
Sure, but I think I look at this as his first 2 innings, he retires 6 of the first 7 batters. He's got 4 strikeouts in that time. The stuff was really good. Fastball averaging 97, topped out at 99. He's throwing 91-mile-an-hour changeups, had the good sweeper going. A big strikeout of Pete Crow Armstrong to get out of a first inning jam, which I thought was real significant for him. And then he gets to the third, and that's where he labors. And some of it's self-inflicted, the leadoff walk, the throwing error on the pickoff attempt. There's also a little blooper into shallow left center field that, again, on a normal day is an out, but the wind was blowing so hard that James Wood just couldn't get to it. And that wasn't Wood getting a bad read on it. That was he couldn't get to it. The wind knocked it down. So that prolonged the inning. So he had to work a lot to get through that one. And then by the time he gets to the fourth, I think he was just out of gas at that point. I think there was a lot of adrenaline going on for him, understandably, making this opening day start for the first time and everything that he's been through. And I think under different circumstances, Blake Butera might have let him try to get out of that fourth inning, but he was looking at him and thinking to himself, I think he's expended himself both physically and mentally just to get to this point. Everybody in the bullpen is fresh, obviously, so let's just make the move right now. Yes, ideally you want him to start going more than 3 2/3. You don't want him to be as inefficient as he was with the 75 pitches. But I actually think it was a fairly encouraging start for him. The stuff looked really good. He did come through in some big spots, got the swing and miss, got into a little bit of trouble, but minimized the damage for the most part. I think he'll learn from this. I think put him in different conditions without all the attention and emotions of opening day and just let him get into a groove now every 5th day. I think he's going to be just fine.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's one start. I think we all understand you don't overreact to it. And something that is, I think, becoming really interesting in MLB, and Blake Butera has spoken to this, so much now of how clubs are evaluating pitchers is by stuff and is by process as opposed to bottom line results. And so, when you look at an outing to just go by the final line, to just go by what was done to the ERA, that's not how these teams are evaluating these outings. And so, with Cavalli, the velocity was good. He had the 5 strikeouts. So there are definitely good things that you can take from this outing. I did want to mention what happened with C.J. Abrams in this game. And I thought that we in this game had like the ultimate example of C.J. Abrams in a nutshell. So Abrams was the Nats starting shortstop and number 6 batter, went 1 for 4 with a 2-run single. And it was a big hit in a big inning, 6-run fourth, bases loaded. Abrams comes through with a first pitch, 2-run single to the right field corner. But he got thrown out in an attempt to get to second base as Abrams took his sweet time getting out of the batter's box due to admiring what he presumably thought was a home run.
Pitch on the way. Swinging a long drive, right field, down the line toward the corner. The wind is pushing it, and it's going to be a fair ball off the wall in play. 2 runs are going to score. Throw to second base. Abrams is out. Wiemer stops at third.
Blake Butera challenged the call of out at second base. The call was upheld. But, this was such a frustrating play from an Nats perspective, but it also is Abrams in a nutshell. It is a perfect microcosm of C.J. Abrams. It's a good play. It's a 2-run single. You can't be too mad at it, but it's marred by a silly, careless screw-up by C.J. Abrams. And, it's one thing to be checked out in August of a lost season. This is opening day, dude. Like, how are you not fully engaged? How are you not dotting every I and crossing every T and minding every P and minding every Q? New regime, too. And you make a mistake like that, it drove me nuts seeing that from Abrams. So it's like, okay, I want to give him praise for the 2-run single, but it's hard to feel great about that play when you see what Abrams did and you see what could have been on that play and could have been with that inning. That was a great inning that could have been even greater.
Yeah, exactly. So they ran into 2 outs in this game, both of them on singles trying to stretch into doubles. But the difference between those two was really dramatic. You had Joey Wiemer with a 2-out single in the 5th, advancing a runner first to third. He tries to aggressively turn into a double. Probably not the right decision because he was thrown out. And with 2 outs and Abrams coming up, that's not worth the risk there. But that's an air of aggression. That's him getting thrown out by trying to make a play happen. What Abrams did, on the other hand, he got thrown out, yes, on a single trying to stretch to a double, but it never should have been close because if he's running hard out of the box, that's an automatic double right from the start, not even a close play at second base. There's the difference. Now, the wind is blowing. He hits it off the bat. He probably just thinks home run. You got to know better than that at Wrigley Field on a day like this, that there's no guarantee of anything. You busted out of the box from the start. I'm sure he heard about it from Blake Butera. I'm sure he knows what happened there himself. Let's see. I think these are the kind of things that we're going to learn a lot about both Abrams as a player, but about Butera and the clubhouse culture that they're trying to establish. If it happens again, okay, there's a problem, and this is reminiscent of what we've seen in the past. If it's nipped in the bud and that's it, and we don't see him do that again, or at least not on any kind of regular basis, that's a good sign of both his own growth and maturity, but also of Butera, the coaches, and the rest of the guys in that clubhouse, making sure that things like that don't happen on a regular basis.
C.J. Abrams and the city of Chicago do not mix well. We have come to learn that in recent years, and we saw that here again on Thursday. Although, again, it was a 2-run single, so it's like you can't be that mad. But you just look at it and you're like, man, Abrams, why did you not run that out? Anyway. Al Galdi here to tell you about Window Nation's end of March special. But before that, the Window Nation look into the future.
We just think the best thing for Dylan and the organization right now is at least for him to start in AAA. Obviously, he has not performed the way that he expects himself to, not just this spring, but also his previous years in the big leagues. It was small sample size, of course, but we told him, you're going to be a huge part of this thing going forward. I know this is really hard right now. It's really tough.
Window Nation is ready for warm weather, and there's no better time to upgrade your home with great Window Nation windows than right now. The end of March special from Window Nation for Nats Chat listeners. The more you buy, the more savings you can enjoy. Up to 50% off all window styles, plus pay no interest for 5 full years. Again, up to 50% off all window styles, plus pay no interest for 5 full years. Visit windownation.com to schedule a free consultation. That's windownation.com. And tell Window Nation that Al Galdi sent ya.
Today's show is sponsored by Strawberry.me. Let me ask you something. Do you think championship athletes got to the top by guessing? No, they had coaching. Every elite athlete has a coach watching their form, calling the plays, and spotting the blind spots they can't see themselves. That's how championships are won. So why are you trying to win in your career without a coach? You're grinding, hoping for the promotion, trying to read the politics, guessing your next move. That's amateur hour. If you want to perform like a pro, you need coaching. Strawberry.me matches you with a professional career coach who breaks down your game film. They help you negotiate the raise, navigate workplace politics, and execute a strategy that actually works. Stop riding the bench in your own life. Go to strawberry.me/podcast50 to get 50% off your first coaching session. Strawberry.me, because pros don't guess, they get coached to win.
The Bleacher Report app is your destination for sports. Right now, the NBA's heating up, March Madness is here, and MLB is almost back. Every day there's a new headline, a new highlight, a new moment you've got to see for yourself. That's why I stay locked in with the Bleacher Report app. For me, it's about staying connected to my sports. I can follow the teams I care about, get real-time scores, breaking news, and highlights all in one place. Download the Bleacher Report app today so you never miss a moment.
Hi, this is Alex Kantrowitz. I'm the host of Big Technology Podcast, a longtime reporter and an on-air contributor to CNBC. And if you're like me, you're trying to figure out how artificial intelligence is changing the business world and our lives. So each week on Big Technology, I bring on key actors from companies building AI tech and outsiders trying to influence it, asking where this is all going. They come from places like NVIDIA, Microsoft, Amazon, and plenty more. So if you want to be smart with your wallet, your career choices, in meetings with your colleagues, and at dinner parties, listen to Big Technology Podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
Now the pitch, waving, swing and a miss, and a slurving breaking ball for strike three. And an opening day, Curly W in the books in Chicago, and the first managerial win for Blake Butera, getting the glad hands of the dugout from his coaching staff. The final score, the Washington Nationals 10, the Chicago Cubs 4.
Nats get the win. Great to see that. Off day on Friday. Games 2 and 3 of the series over Saturday and Sunday. Game 2, Saturday afternoon at 2:20. Miles Mikolas will be the Nats starting pitcher. Game 3, Sunday afternoon at 2:20. Jake Irvin will be the Nats starting pitcher. We know more now about the Josiah Gray situation. So, Nats starting pitcher Josiah Gray, the Nats on March 19th announced having optioned him to AAA Rochester in what was a pretty anticipated move as he was working his way back from having undergone both Tommy John surgery and an internal brace procedure on his right UCL in July 2024. But then we on March 23rd got the devastating news of the Nats first having recalled Gray from Rochester and then having put him on the 60-day injured list retroactive to March 22nd due to a right flexor strain. Now, the mechanics of this are interesting. He was recalled from Rochester and put on the 60-day IL, the major league injured list, presumably because he got injured while at the major league level. If a guy gets hurt at the major league level but then gets demoted to the minors and is injured, you can't just put him on the minor league or on a minor league injured list. You have to do the guy right and put him on the major league injured list, and he accrues service time. So we assumed that he had gotten hurt at some point during his time at the major league level. But you guys got info and intel on this prior to the game. And at least according to Blake Butera, Gray got injured while at the minor league level.
Yeah, and Paul Taboni as well. So I think as we discussed the other day, when Gray was sent down, I and a few others interviewed him that afternoon in West Palm Beach, and he understood it, number one, the move. And he also said that he felt great and he felt like he was really close to being all the way back to where he needed to be. And there was no indication that there was anything wrong with him physically at that point. Then he takes the mound. It's either a day or two later, I believe, in one of the backfields in Palm Beach in a AAA spring training game, and afterwards reports that his elbow is sore. So they give him the MRI, they come up with the flexor strain, and they decide okay, let's not take any chances. Let's put you on the 60-day IL, which means we're recalling you. Forget about the demotion to AAA. We're going to put you back on the major league roster and then on the 60-day IL, not the 15-day. Listening to Butera and Taboni talk about it, number one, they both are indicating that this was something that came up during that one start, not necessarily a lingering issue throughout the spring. They also kind of indicated that they thought, if not for Josiah's history of injury here, they might have actually tried to push him a little more to go through it and not just shut him down right away. So the implication was that they don't necessarily think it's a huge deal, that under different circumstances, they might not even have put him on the IL, or certainly not on the 60-day IL. But given his history, they felt like it was worth it to be cautious, and they felt like Josiah Gray himself appreciated that they're watching out for him and not trying to force the issue and make him try to go pitch if he's not at 100%. And we'll see how this all plays out. It's going to be at least a couple months till we know anything. I don't just expect him to suddenly be back within 60 days, and we'll see if it happens at all. I don't have a good answer on why the Major League IL and not the Minor League IL. It didn't get asked directly of anyone. I'll see what I can find out the next few days in that regard. It's possible that they're doing this for his benefit, getting to work with the Major League training staff, medical staff, and yes, giving him service time and a salary. And maybe it's a little bit of a favor to him, or maybe there is a little more to it and it's not as simple as he was 100% before he was sent down and then he had one minor league start that it started to hurt him.
Yeah, I mean, you wonder if, maybe his agent would dispute when exactly Josiah got hurt. And, you don't want things to get ugly, so you just put him on the major league 60-day injured list. But yeah, that is the difference. That is why we're bringing this up, because while he's on the major league injured list, a major league injured list, in this case, a 60-day IL, he's accruing service time. Now, at this point with Josiah Gray, I don't know how worried we should be about service time, free agency, et cetera. But, this kind of stuff does matter. From a front office perspective, you're always thinking about this kind of thing. And it is interesting that, we presume he got hurt while at the major league level. And at least according to Paul Taboni and Blake Butera, that is not the case. All right. Well, 1-0. It's nice to be able to say that. The reason that Zach Littell and Foster Griffin are not starting in this series, that we're getting Mikolas and Irvin, we know Littell is still working his way into form. Why not Foster Griffin in this series, do you think?
So just like the lineup, this is about trying to match up as best as they can. They view the Cubs as more right-handed heavy with their lineup, and so they're putting their 3 right-handers out against them. The Phillies obviously have some big lefty bats, and Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber most notably, and so Foster Griffin will start Game 4 and facing them. You can't do this all year long. Once you establish your rotation, you kind of have to stick with it, and that's what you have. And you can't decide, well, I want this guy facing this team and that guy facing that team. But they figured they have the ability to do that given who they're facing in this first week of the season. And then you throw in the Littell factor, which is that he needed more time. Now, I asked about him before the game, and Blake Butera did say that while he is rusty, and he's probably where he would be after only a couple of spring training starts in like early March instead of late March, Littell is healthy and is, believing that he's good to go for what I presume will be Game 5 or maybe Game 6. Because of the off day, you could have Cade Cavalli start Game 5 and then Littell starts Game 6. Either way, he's going to have to pitch one of those games in Philadelphia. What they told him was, make sure you are at your best. Don't try to hump up and be more than you're ready to be at this point. It's more important to us that you are good to go later this summer than it is that you're 100% now for your first start of the year. So don't be shocked if he doesn't have a great showing in that first game, and if they maybe limit what they get from him or even ask from him in that first game. But that's the thought process behind that, and why we're going to see the 2 righties for the rest of this series and then the lefty in Philadelphia.
This installment of Nats Chat brought to us by Mason Kalfas, the top legal recruiter in Washington, D.C. Mason has been with us since our first season. You can reach him at 202-486-3535. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. You tell us what you think. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email us natschatpodcast@gmail.com. And we have a website that we invite you to check out, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can purchase a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt. Maybe Shover should create a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt that simply reads Verizon Files Channel 579. I don't know. Just coming up with ideas, Tim. We're just trying to help out. Anyway, enjoy 1-0. The Nats undefeated so far in this 2026 regular season. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
Next pitch. Swing a line drive right field toward the line. That's going to get down for a hit and tie the game. Coming in to score is Chpparo. House on his way to third. Dalen Lyle holds it first. This game is tied at 2. Dalen Lyle delivers the RBI single here in the 4th inning. And the Nationals, with a nice rally, have 3 hits in a row against Boyd.
The Bleacher Report app is your destination for sports. Right now, the NBA's heating up, March Madness is here, and MLB is almost back. Every day there's a new headline, a new highlight, a new moment you've got to see for yourself. That's why I stay locked in with the Bleacher Report app. For me, it's about staying connected to my sports. I can follow the teams I care about, get real-time scores, breaking news, and highlights all in one place. Download the Bleacher Report app today so you never miss a moment.